Welcome to the 323 podcast, where we look at how faith and work intersect. Each week, we talk to business leaders and difference makers about honoring God in the way we lead, create, and serve, because in everything we do, our work can reflect the one we serve. Abraham Abner grew up around precious metals and jewelry right here in El Paso. It might come as a surprise that he has ended up crafting exotic leather goods. He and his family built Artifex Leather works from scratch, handcrafting alligator, ostrich, and python belts right here in the boot capital of the world. They started on eBay, grew to over 2,000 reviews, and never lost the family feel of the business. Let's talk about what it looks like to run a craft business with the people you love. Abraham, welcome to the 323 podcast.
Thank you for having me, Tiffany.
So you grew up around the precious metals industry and jewelry, which feels a world away from exotic leather. Walk us through the background that eventually led you to founding Artifex Leather.
So initially, us being in the precious metals business, we not only did like scrap, industrial material, stuff like that, but we would also take in fine, vintage, retro wristwatches, timepieces.
Oh, okay.
And as you could imagine, a lot of these pieces, because of their age, the watch straps were either worn or stretched or disintegrated somewhere along their lifespan. And we started finding replacements for these pieces, you know. And my dad, I have my dad to thank for a lot of this. He saw the need to also elevate these pieces a little bit more. So then we started looking for someone to make us watch straps. We finally found the right person, introduced exotic leathers into those watch straps, and we were doing great with the watches and the jewelry, the reselling, all that stuff. And since we sold on eBay, we had some repeat customers, and eventually people started asking us, hey, this watch strap on this watch, I love the watch, but the watch strap is like a showstopper, you know?
Nice.
And they would ask us, are you interested in selling watch straps, or could you connect me with the person that could sell me these watch straps? And it just clicked, you know? It's like, wow, well, we're already in the industry of wristwatches. Why not offer accompanying accessories, which is the watch straps? We started with the watch straps. They started doing really good. And then that same person was like, I know how to make belts.
Oh, nice.
And so my dad took a shot on that. And now the belts have turned into our bread and butter.
So your business is unique in that you didn't start with a local shop. You didn't start at a farmer's market or something like that. You literally started on eBay selling this product. And that's grown now. You have your own website, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So me and my dad started selling on eBay when I was still in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Old school eBay.
Yeah, old school. And we did really good on there. That was, base level, started building it from there. And then I don't think this is unique to just our business, but you start noticing that you're gaining traction, and it's like, what's the next step? Like, where do we take it from there? And also, because of the nature of our business, exotic leathers, the world out there, there's a lot of opinions floating around. So eBay is a business all of its own. So at any moment, they could sweep the rug under us if they decide that our products don't align with their values.
Yes.
Another thing that we also wanted to address is like, what do we do with the brand aspect of it, right? Because when you're selling on those platforms, it's the platform first, and then it's maybe you gain some recognition from it. So we finally took the step, because of those reasons, to open up our own store. And predominantly right now, we're an e-commerce brand.
Okay.
And it's so funny because for the longest time, it was just brick and mortar, right? That was your only option. Yeah. And then these brick and mortars started developing their own e-commerce sites, but we worked it backwards, right? Yeah. So we started with the e-commerce aspect, and now our customers, whether they're from out of town, because we've shipped to all 50 states of the United States.
Great.
And so someone called El Paso the belly button of the world.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I had not heard that one before.
But whether you're in Alabama,
Yeah.
New York, you're going to meet someone from El Paso,
It's true.
or people need to come here for work, drive through because
Yes.
of work, or what have you. And so now my customers are like, where can I see you? Where can I come in? And that's the thing about our business too. It's very sensory, right? Because of the exotic leather,
Yes.
it's got to smell, it's got to feel,
Yep.
it's got to look. So it's a very sensory experience. And unfortunately, because we don't have a storefront yet, we're working on it. Customers don't get to experience all the sensory stuff,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think what you're saying is so important. I think there are times where we as Christians lean too much into trust in times when we should be, wise as serpent, wise as the serpent, as scripture says. And I think owning your own platform is one of those. It's great if we can use the tools that are out there, eBay and Shopify and all of these things are great tools that we can use, but it's so important to know that you own your own domain, that you own your branding, your logo, your business name, and things like that. And so often those things don't come up till so far down the road as people are building their business that they're like, oh, wow, that domain name's not available. What am I going to do about that? Or, yeah, eBay pulled my store for some reason. And with so many of those platforms, you can't appeal it. And so I think it's so wise what you're doing, what you've done, where it's like, yes, we can have this, but let's diversify and make sure that we're being wise with these resources we're stewarding for the Lord. So,
Correct.
So that's awesome. So you have, you went from, it sounds like kind of a side gig. This was just something you sort of did as addition to the jewelry business. And now this has become a business unto its own. Tell me a little bit about the business, about your warehouse, your facilities, and your team.
So it's three of us. It's me, my dad, and my brother. I handle it. It'd be easier to tell you what they handle first.
Okay.
So my brother, he's a production manager. He's the head honcho there at the production level. So he has 4 craftsmen under him right now.
Okay.
And we have like a 2,000 square foot facility where we knock out anywhere from 200 to 250 pieces a week. So,
wow. Okay.
yeah, our output has really grown over the years. My father, he handles all the sourcing. So, like you mentioned in the beginning, this is the boot capital of the world. So, thankfully, we were blessed enough to have access to a lot of these suppliers that normally supply or majority supply bootmakers. Yeah. So we could go in there, purchase those products or those materials, make our belts, and that's my dad's side of things, right? So he sources, he goes, he knows how to pick them out, and he's got an amazing eye for design.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, to the point where me and him kind of get into these scrambles of like, you got to pump the brakes. Like, it's a lot of stuff, And then my thing is customer support, posting these items online, managing the marketing team. The marketing team is composed of me, my friend Cameron. He's over in Arizona, so he helps us with the programming of the ads. And then Anna, she's here locally, and she handles all the creative stuff, right?
Oh,
So the
nice.
photography, when we shoot content, but it takes a village. It takes a village to run something like this.
Absolutely. So one of the things I've been really impressed as I've watched you all online is that you're really active on social media. And I think you're so right. Your product is unique in that it's very sensory. It's very tactile. When you see it in the videos, it's so different than just seeing a picture of it. And so tell me a little bit about how that's developed as the person who kind of oversees marketing. What are some mistakes you made early on? What have you learned about promoting your business online?
So the online space is very driven by, how should I say this, trust as well, right? Because, I mean, scam calls all the time, crazy offers to your spam folders, right? Yeah. So, and then we're very, very competitive to the point where some people might even be like, whoa, too good to be true, right?
Yeah.
But it's about building that trust and also maintaining that trust. So in the online space, we try to approach it in a more personal way. So I would urge business owners that are trying to get into that social media marketing, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to have to come out in those videos.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to have to introduce yourself, introduce your brand, your team, and kind of foster that personalized vibe when it comes to your marketing. Because people, you could get a celebrity and they could shoot an amazing spot, but people want to know that they're being serviced by people just like me and you. So it's like, how do we personalize the marketing? Of course, have beautiful, beautiful stage shots of our products, but also, sometimes just whip out your phone, 30-second video. This is what we're doing today. It could be as easy as that, and I still kind of struggle with that because I do get nervous. I just see the cameras, I see the lights, and you start to run things through your mind, and then you have the budget for the marketing in the back of your mind, and you're like, well, this is going to have X amount of reach. Like, even though it's just us here recording it, millions, hundreds of thousands of people could see this ad, so it kind of sinks in. But you just gotta do it, because if we can build that trust and we can maintain it, because it's not just about getting them in through the door, it's how do we foster this relationship going forward. I think introducing yourself and being yourself is like the best thing you could do.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that people want to see the human face behind the businesses. We have so many choices, many choices right now. We're inundated with choices every day. And so people do want to connect with the human behind the product that they're purchasing. So I think that's so smart. And yeah, like you said, not being afraid to just get in there, shoot the product, shoot the video, and post it. And I know so many people who get caught up in it being a perfect video. And so they'll record it, 100 times rather than just saying, like, I'm not going to let perfect be the enemy of progress. I'm just going to shoot this and post it. And so I love that approach of, no, we're going to be real. We're going to be authentic. And it really, people connect with things that aren't, just perfect and totally edited. There's something just really genuine about that.
Yeah. And that's why we love, if we can get our hands on it, we've reached out to a few of our customers and, would you be willing to record a review on our product? Because we want to get our customers involved in that too. Like, this is an actual customer. This is how they actually feel. They might not use the right verbiage. They might not use the right terms, but that's what makes it authentic, because it's like, that person's just like me.
Yeah, so that's cool. Well, we've talked a lot about business and how you navigated your way into building this business. Tell me a little bit about your faith background. What does that look like?
So I'm the oldest of three brothers. It's me, Abraham, David, and Elias.
Okay.
So as you could tell, very Christian coded background. I've been going to church since I was a little kid.
Okay.
And decided to take the conscious step when I was in middle school to get baptized. Okay. For either their own reasons with the teachings or what have you. We were part of this Baptist church for the longest time, and my parents took the difficult decision to change where we would worship, and that was like my first challenge of my faith, because I was basically pulled away from everything that I've known and grown up to be like my community of Christ.
Yeah.
Right. And I took that pretty rough. I had a really hard time integrating to our new congregation, and of no fault of their own or any, it was like a personal thing, and then that was like through high school. And once you reach high school, that's when you start, gaining more and more consciousness. You have more, I guess, freedoms, right? And slowly over the years, kind of started just like it was a chore. It was like Sunday we go to church, we go to church, and then I guess for a while the nail in the coffin was when I finally moved out of my parents' house, and it went from going to church on Sunday to once or twice a month, and I just started distancing myself more and more and more and more. And it wasn't until last year that God gave me the immense blessing of like purchasing my first home. And I got in there, and the question was just eating at me, like, what does it mean to be a man? To be a man, to be this steward of your home, you know? And out there's so many podcasts, there's so much, you know, quick little clips of like, this is what it means to be a man, and this is and that and that. And it was a very construed idea, right? Because they tell you not to be emotional, don't cry, don't this, but what about your heart? Like, you know, so luckily for me, not luckily, it was because of the grace of God, he's always had his hand over me in the sense of like always trying to like push me back, push me back, push me back. And whether it be a push or a shove or, you know, I started dwelling on that question a lot. Like, what does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a man when you introduce kids, a marriage, all that stuff? So I was very driven by that, and I wasn't really finding the answers, not realizing that the answers had always been in front of me. You know, so some months passed in my home, and I finally took the decision to really try to get myself back into like being a truly practicing Jesus loving Christian, and try to better myself. There's been obvious hiccups along the way, and like I said, God has given me and taken from me, but in everything that's happened, I feel like he's always been there. Like I'm taking this away from you because I want you to seek me and like really seek my path for you, because you've been doing it on your own for so long. It's like, I think it's time to, you know, to reorient yourself in that. And we talked a little bit about this before we started. I don't think my journey is unique, right? Especially as a young man, I'm 30 years old. There's a lot out there. There's a lot out there. And the one thing that I'm asking God to help me with is like my impulse control, right? Whether it be whatever, from like A through Z, you name it. Like if it's food, if it's going out, it's this, it's that. So in the objective of not only getting closer to him, but also like bettering myself for my family, for my friends, for any relationships, and my customers and the people I work with, ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so beautiful. And I mean, again, I've heard throughout my life that, you know, no matter how many steps away from God we take, we turn around, it's only one step back. And just so grateful that we serve a God that loves us enough to wait for us to be ready. And, you know, awesome that for people like you and myself who grew up in the church and had that foundation, so that when the time came, that the fruit came from that, even if there was a season there of walking away and figuring that out. It's one of the things I tell my own teenagers is that, you know, they've grown up in the faith, and someday there's going to come a moment where they have to make that decision of, is this my faith or was this my parents' faith? And I've always told them, you know, I believe when that moment comes, I hope and believe that and pray that you choose that it's your faith. But also I believe that those seeds have been planted, that no matter what happens, that they'll come back to that. So I'm sure your parents were very grateful to see, you know, you come back to the faith as well.
Of course. And then it was, I mean, he always has the control, our Lord, right? And it's almost as if you might think, oh, coincidence, right? But it's not. One of the first sermons when I started going back was about the prodigal son, right? And it just hit me like a truck, you know? But the thing about the prodigal son story is that there's two brothers.
That's right.
Right? So there's, you know, the one that was like furthest alienated from God. And then there's the other one that gets very upset when his dad takes him back in.
The older brother.
And the older brother, he did everything his dad wanted. He was a good son for all intents and purposes. But even then, even though he was there, he was still there for the wrong reasons. And at times, I found myself being the older son. I found myself being the younger son. I found myself being the older son because I would I would say, no, I know that this is not part of my faith. But I was almost like the Pharisees, right?
Yeah.
Very legalistic. Like I know 10 Commandments, I know the law, but in private you're a different person. You're living in the sin. So that was very impactful for me, because it's a tale of two sons, but sometimes we find ourselves between the two, or you're one or the other.
Absolutely.
But that redemption is,
It's
that's the beauty of our faith, that there's redemption for all of us.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about what it looks like to integrate your faith at work. You've got employees, you've got vendors, you've got customers. How does that faith that you've now taken hold of as an adult impact the way you interact with all those people?
So I always tell people that we're a company that sells a product, but foremost, we're a people company, because we are nothing without our employees, and we're nothing without our customers.
Yeah.
So whenever we get the opportunity to share our values with the people we work with, it's twofold, right? It's not only to kind of inform them about the values of the company, but it's also their personal development as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because if we can surround ourselves by people that think closer to us and recognize the same values of us, even though they might not be walking in the faith, we can slowly start creeping in there and start creeping into their hearts, to the point that, we've had people that work with us that they're just going through a really rough time, and that's when we seek, or we find the opportunity to be like, hey, like, no pressure, but like there's this amazing guy that like gives us everything and takes care of us, and this journey is not easy, but if we're willing to walk with you on this, to the point that we've had some people that work with us and we invite them to our church, and we get to worship alongside them, and just have that positive effect on these people's lives.
That's so cool. And again, that it makes what we do have eternal lasting value. Like, yes, I think it does glorify God when we do our jobs well and when we pursue excellence. I believe that glorifies God. So when we're in the workplace and we're pursuing excellence, I think that brings glory to God. I know. But I also think there's this other component of loving people genuinely and really being, Christ to the person in the workplace, and not just allowing our coworkers to do that amongst themselves, but actually stepping in and doing life with our employees is so very important. So that's really great. I love it. What else? You've got some expansions planned. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we're planning on moving. It's so funny because we're here off of Yandell. Okay. So we're going to be moving a couple blocks away to a slightly bigger facility, and we're going to be introducing a mini showroom, right? Okay. So we can actually have people come in and maybe not see everything we have, or maybe like have all the inventory in front of them, but for sure they can come in, we could talk to them, inform them about the product, inform them about what we do, give little tours too. I recently had the opportunity to go talk at EPCC at their fashion tech. Yeah. And, they're dying to come and see the facility and everything. Yeah. So just being able to have that influence in the community. I'm a huge believer of El Paso, and you mentioned this in one of your previous episodes. It's a big town, small city.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
And everybody that's graduating here, they're looking for opportunities and stuff. So it's how can we eventually open up these opportunities to some of the talent that's coming out of El Paso, so we can keep them here.
Yes, absolutely.
Because there's a brain drain here.
Yes.
Where it's like there's so many highly prepared candidates, and because of just the job market here, they have to make the easy or hard decision of leaving, and we lose out on that talent.
Well, thank you for being one of many great entrepreneurs who are providing jobs and really creative jobs for our young people here. It's been incredible talking to you. We have to wrap it up now, but I would love for you to share how our listeners can find out more about Artifex Leather.
Of course. So it's going to be our website, artifexleather.com, or on Instagram, it's Artifex Leather as well. And, any questions, just feel free to reach out to us on either one of those.
And that is ARTIFEX.
Leather.com. Yeah.
So artifexleather.com. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Abraham, and I hope we can talk again soon.
Awesome. Me too, Tiffany. Thank you so much for having me.
If God is writing a story in your workplace, we'd love to hear about it. You can share it with us by visiting 323podcast.com. That's the numbers 323podcast.com. We'll be back again next week with more great conversations on connecting your Sunday faith to your Monday life. Until then, may God bless your work this week. May He renew your strength, deepen your joy, and remind you that you're serving Him in all you do.